Alright, so this was supposed to be a video on Jet Set Radio, but then my copy on Steam bugged out and kept starting a new game every time I tried to load my damn save. Luckily, we were blessed with a spiritual successor this very year. The game itself may not be retro, but it certainly carries that bright and colorful Dreamcast energy. This is Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Developed and published by Team Reptile, the studio behind Lethal League. I really need to play that at some point. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is an unabashed throwback to the extreme sports titles of the late 90s and early 2000s, with a distinct, cel-shaded Y2K vision of the near future that I haven't seen done this well since Jet Set Radio Future. The game describes itself as having 1 second per second of advanced funk style, and if that doesn't give you an idea of what you're in for with Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, I don't know what does. Set in the futuristic city of New Amsterdam, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk stars Foe, one of the big three, the 3 top graffiti artists in New Amsterdam. At the start, you're broken out of jail by the leader of the up-and-coming Bomb Rush crew, Trice.
Real name, no gimmicks.
Once you've gotten the hang of things and finished the tutorial section, Trice and Foe make their dramatic escape by leaping from the rooftop and holy fucking ass crackers!
Whoa. Do you ever have one of those moments where you think, how the hell did I get here?
Correction. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk stars Red, the name given to the cyberhead Trice had strapped to Foe's headless corpse. Red lacking his original head's memories gives us a convenient excuse for Trice and the only other member of the BRC, Bell, to provide info dumps on how things work in New Amsterdam. It's quickly revealed that the masked man with the most innovative use of vinyl records is known as DJ Cyber.
Oh my god, I forgot to put air holes in this helmet!
Another of the big three, and the only one left after Foe's murder and the mysterious disappearance of the legendary writer Felix. On the streets, there's only one way the BRC can bring such a powerful man to justice. They need to go all city. That means taking every district in New Amsterdam from the other crews by tagging over their turf, then beating them in a showdown overseen by the very esteemed old heads. Those crews being the Franks, Eclipse, .exe, Devil Theory, and DJ Cyber's own Futurism. As if the other crews weren't enough trouble, New Amsterdam's police have decided to go all out in their war against graffiti, rapidly escalating from patrolmen with batons and turrets which fire shackles, to full-on lethal force with snipers, drones, and even more. Thank God they're so incompetent that they struggle to take down a single skater. In fact, they might be at an all-new level of incompetence, seeing as how all it takes for them to lose track of said skater is for them to waltz into a porta-potty and change his clothes. From there, it's all about going from area to area, spray painting everything in sight, and completing various trick combo challenges. In addition to the rollerblading you'd expect from something so blatantly inspired by Jet Set Radio, you'll also have access to skateboards and BMX bikes. Though they don't play all that differently from each other, mainly just changing the tricks you can perform. However, the controls are so butter smooth that it hardly matters. I didn't pick up a game that promises me 1 second per second of advanced funk style and expect Tony Mira's freestyle skater after all. This is the kind of game that is all about style. And I'm fine with that. Where the lack of variation was more noticeable to me was with the different playable characters you'll unlock as you progress. Visually, each one is distinct and memorable in their own way, but there are no stat differences to be found. Going back to Jet Set Radio, there each character had 3 separate attributes: power, technique, and graffiti. Power was their health, technique increased the points you earned on tricks, and a high graffiti skill meant you got more points for a tag, but as a consequence the command inputs were more difficult. Back over in Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, save for one section where you have to play as Belle in order to get the all-female crew Eclipse to accept your challenge, all changing characters amounts to is a visual and vocal change. Something to address in a future sequel, I hope. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk's trick system is all about keeping your combo going and getting that multiplier up higher and higher until you've got your score up in the millions. Here there aren't dozens of different motions you need to memorize or balance meters to fiddle with. Just keep pressing different buttons while you're grinding or in the air, and keep manualing/sliding/wheelie-ing when you're not. Learn how to keep all this going while finding new spots for a hard corner or a half pipe for another boost to your multiplier, and you'll be on top in no time. For as much fun as I have with this simplicity, I imagine this could disappoint players hoping for something more complex. Honestly, there were points where I found the game a tad on the easy side, and I suck at video games. For instance, you don't have to worry about attempting a trick too late in mid-air because you'll still land perfectly fine every time. It was hard to do since the tricks were automatic in it, but even Jet Set Radio had moments where you could crash and burn. It comes with the extreme sports territory. In general, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is an extremely forgiving game, and that could either be a positive or negative depending on the player. Miss time to jump? Don't worry, you've got a jump pack that will give you an extra bit of oomph to reach the rail. In a lot of ways, this makes it feel closer to a platformer than a sports game. Precise air control, being able to hit top speed in mere moments, and the most forgiving grind window I've ever seen outside of a 3D Sonic game. Again, I don't consider this to be a negative, just different than what some may expect out of a game like this. One addition I didn't see coming when I bought this was a combat system. So, if you're a weirdo like me who always thought the only thing missing from games like Jet Set Radio and Tony Hawk's Underground was the ability to fight like Eddie Gordo, well, we finally got our wish. It's really button mashy and not all that satisfying, but it's there. You can even tag the cops you fight as a final bit of humiliation. Provided you can time it correctly. Damn. Mulligan. God, this timing window is smaller than my dick!
Ow, my pride.
There we go. Finally.
お前はもう死んでいる。
Whereas Jet Set Radio had you pick 3 different tags to use in a level, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk allows you to use whichever ones you want at any time once you've unlocked them. All you have to do is remember the specific pattern for the one you want. Fortunately, you can pull them up at any time on your flip phone to remind yourself. Well, that works for normal people who don't have the memory of a goldfish like I do. Seriously, I can remember bits from a cartoon from 20 years ago, but I can't remember the pattern I just looked at.
State your name!
The Dark Lord Chuckles the Silly Piggy!
Are you kidding me with that?
I'm sure it's fine. Sure, I've hit my head a bunch throughout my life. But it's never caused any serious purple monkey dishwasher. The good thing is that even if you don't remember the patterns, you can't input the wrong combination. This means if you don't care which tag you use, you can pretty much just wildly flick the stick around until you get a result. I find this a happy medium that works for both players who want to put a unique tag wherever they can, and ones who just want to progress. Time also slows down when you do this, so no worries about getting hit while you're spraying either, even if it was funny whenever I got run over by the motorcycle cops in Jet Set Radio. Since we're talking about art, let's talk visuals. I absolutely adore this art style. If it's not obvious by this point, I love cartoons.
Animation is so hard! People who do this for a living deserve more credit and respect!
And cel-shaded games like this are the closest I can get to being inside of one. Inside of one.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
Add in the Y2K as fuck fashions and the Dreamcast in HD graphics, and you've got one of the most criminally underutilized aesthetics in gaming. If they'd found some way to incorporate Batman Beyond into this, then Team Reptile would have combined virtually everything I was a fan of when I was little. Note to self, skateboarding games starring Batman. Make it happen. The one downside to this Dreamcast era look to everything is that the faces of each character are static textures with no ability to emote. In normal gameplay, you'll barely even notice this, but it's very noticeable in the cutscenes. Having grown up playing a number of games that were far uglier that also did this with the faces, this isn't a serious problem to me, but I wouldn't be doing my... job? Hobby? Jobby. I'm going with jobby. I wouldn't be doing my jobby if I didn't acknowledge this issue. One of the most daunting tasks in attempting to craft a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio is in putting together the right soundtrack. Both Jet Set Radio games have a slew of disgustingly funky beats, and birthday cake, that will be playing in your head for the rest of your life. Don't believe me? Bass lines like that make me wish I'd actually put the effort into learning how to play my bass. Hideki Naganuma is a fucking master we puny mortals are unworthy of. Against all odds, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk manages a soundtrack that not only lives up to those lofty expectations, but they even managed to score 3 new tracks from the CEO of Funky Fresh Beats himself. These aren't half-assed mixes Naganuma made on the cheap either. Get Enough, Jack to Funk, and To People are just as top shelf as his work on Jet Set Radio. In fact, To People may have actually unseated the concept of love as my favorite Naganuma track. Interestingly, both songs sample parts of the same Stokely Carmichael speech. There's no way that was unintentional. I mean, it's a fantastic speech, But you don't just sample the same civil rights leader for two different games about rebelling against authority without some thematic purpose. Outside of Naganuma's tracks, this game is still chock full of earworms. I doubt I'll be able to play many of them without getting in trouble with the copyright police, but I encourage everyone watching this video who hasn't already to go out and give the soundtrack a listen, even if you aren't interested in the game itself. Actually, you know what? Especially if you aren't interested in the game itself. Just maybe don't start with hair done, nails done. Yeah. On the positive side, that means this game even has its equivalent to Birthday Cake from Jet Set Radio Future. Let's stop thinking about that now and move on to the story. If my reaction while talking about the opening wasn't enough of an indication, I was kinda caught off guard by Bomb Rush Cyberfunk's commitment to storytelling. I love Jet Set Radio and everything, but it's not something that springs to mind when I think of games with a serious story and character development. Sure, a story is present in both games, but it's hardly the focus. Meanwhile, in Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, we have a story that has a real hook to it. I'm not going to delve into spoilers for this, but I will say that there is far more going on in this plot than trying to bring DJ Cyber to justice for stealing a Tachikoma from Ghost in the Shell. I mean, killing Foe. I was really not expecting how compelling I wound up finding Red's journey. It isn't some grandiose, earth-shattering epic, but considering that I wasn't expecting a strong narrative in the first place, this was a welcome surprise. There's even a strong underlying critique of police militarization, something Jet Set Radio was content to keep in the realm of absurdist parody. It's nice to see a game have something to say and not try to cover it up with those cowardly Ubisoft excuses like, "Our game set in Washington, D.C. after societal collapse is totally not political, you guys!" Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is the closest thing we'll likely ever get to a proper third installment of Jet Set Radio. Thanks, Sega. While it does trend towards the easy side and could have done with a little extra to make either the different characters or writing styles feel different in gameplay, I still think this is a damn fine spiritual successor. I was promised Jet Set Radio, and by God, I got Jet Set Radio. Strangely, I've seen critique of the game for that very reason. Claims that Bomb Rush Cyberfunk doesn't innovate on what inspired it. Which, frankly, I disagree with on the grounds of better controls and a stronger focus on story, but let's say I did think that wasn't enough of a difference from Jet Set Radio. Here's my counterpoint. It's been 21 years since Jet Set Radio Future was released, and 11 since Jet Set Radio's HD remaster. 2 games. 2. Actually 3 if you count the GBA version, but no one's counting that. How is it that a lack of innovation in a style of game that hasn't even been prevalent in 20 years is such a damning criticism of Bomb Rush Cyberfunk when you place it up against the endless tide of roguelikes, survival with crafting, and yet more motherfucking roguelikes? It's just such a strange critique to make when there are actual issues with the game itself that even someone like me who absolutely loves Bomb Rush Cyberfunk can point out. Bottom line, if you enjoyed Jet Set Radio and have been itching for something like it, this will scratch that itch. As for everyone else, well, if you're in the mood for a fun game with style to spare and you don't mind it lacking a significant challenge, I think I can still confidently recommend Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. The version I played for this review was the PC version, but it's available on all major platforms at $40. It isn't the longest game out there. I think it took me about 10 to 12 hours to finish the story. But if you like me and value games based on how enjoyable those hours are, rather than how many there are, it's worth the asking price. Well, that's it for this one. I'll be back next time with an actual retro game.